Okay, good afternoon everybody. You're very welcome to our webinar on auto-enrollment. So today's webinar is going to be conducted by Paul Byrne, and the topic is the essential guide to auto-enrollment for employers. Now you're quite welcome to type in any questions that you might have about anything that we're discussing today. So on your control panel there on the right hand side you'll see a little question tab there. So if you type in any questions as we move through the webinar, and we'll have a Q&A session at the very end, and we'll try to get through as many questions as possible. And we'll also send a recording of the webinar to everybody after this afternoon's webinar. Now the good news today is we have a free competition. So the competition is for not one but two BrightPay 2015-16 licenses. And this is open to everybody who stays for the entire duration of the webinar. So best of luck, everybody. I'll now pass you over to Paul. Thank you, Paul.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Karen. And thank you for listening in today. Just a small bit about myself to start off. My background is as a practicing accountant. I started my own practice back in the 1980s. And eventually grew to a 3-partner practice with 10 staff before doing something completely different and moving into software development full-time. While working in an accountancy practice, I provided payroll service for about 30 clients, so I have some idea of what it is like for employers. A large part of my motivation in getting into payroll software development was to make better software than what I was using at the time, although I can't claim full credit for BrightPay, which is written by someone younger and better than I, my fellow director, Ross Webster. So far, the company has grown to 65,000 employers across the UK and Ireland, a figure that we are improving on every year. So here's the agenda for today. We will start off with an auto-enrollment overview. From there, we will take a look at each of the different aspects of auto-enrollment. We will then finish off by discussing whether you should process auto-enrollment in-house or outsource it to a professional. When talking, I will probably refer to auto-enrollment or automatic enrollment simply as AE. Okay, auto-enrollment is a government initiative to help more people save for later life through a pension scheme at work. It is being rolled out in stages across all employers and started with the larger employers in October 2012. By October 2018, all employers will be required to offer workplace pension schemes to eligible workers. Auto-enrollment is something that is automated for the employee, but for employers there are a number of new responsibilities. There are over 30 tasks involved in the auto-enrollment process, and each of these can be broken down into 5 areas. Employers must choose a pension provider and set up a pension scheme. Next, employers must assess their workforce at their staging date and enroll all eligible job holders unless they're using postponement. There are a number of letters or communications that must be sent to your employees. Employers must pass on the necessary communications to all employees, not just those who are automatically enrolled. 5 months after the staging date, employers must complete a declaration of compliance to notify the pensions regulator that they have complied with AE. There are also a number of ongoing employer responsibilities such as handling opt-outs and opt-ins, making deductions and contributions, monitoring employees at each pay period, and sending a contribution file to the pension provider. It is important that you have the correct tools in place to automate the auto-enrollment process. Software solutions exist that streamline employer duties, allowing you to reduce your workload while saving time and money. Your staging date is the date your automatic enrollment duties come into effect for you. You'll see from the slide that January 6, 2016 is when the bulk of small and micro employers start to stage. In fact, some small and micro employers are staging between now and January 2016 anyway. Your staging date appears on the letters sent to you by the pensions regulator about automatic enrollment. You can also access your staging date by entering your PAYE reference on the pension regulator's website. Once you reach your staging date, You must assess each of your employees and determine whether they are eligible job holders, non-eligible job holders, or entitled workers. So eligible job holders are those who are aged between 22 and state pension age. They earn above the earnings threshold, which is currently 10,000, and work in the UK. Automatic enrolment makes it compulsory for employers to automatically enroll their eligible workers into a pension scheme. The employer must also make contributions into the scheme. Workers who do not want to contribute to a pension scheme may choose to opt out after being enrolled. They also need to opt out again after the company's re-enrollment, which happens every 3 years. What are non-eligible job holders? They are those who are aged between 16 and 75 and earn over 5,824 and up to £10,000, or are aged between 16 and 75 but they're under 22 or over state pension age and earn over the actual threshold of £10,000. Non-eligible job holders will not be automatically enrolled into their employer's pension scheme. However, they may ask to be enrolled. If this is the case, the employer must also contribute to the pension scheme. Entitled workers are those who are aged at least 16 and under the age of 75, earn the lower level of earnings or less, which is currently £5,772, and they work in the UK. These are not automatically enrolled. They may ask to join the scheme, which is different to being enrolled. The employer is not required by law, but may, if they wish, make employer contributions to the scheme. In summary, auto-enrolment is something that is optional for the employee, but mandatory for the employer. After the staging date, employees must be monitored at each pay period in case an employee becomes an eligible job holder, meaning they need to be automatically enrolled, for example, if they turn 22 years of age. Assessing each employee's age and qualifying earnings manually would be extremely time-consuming and monotonous. When an employee requires enrolment, it is important that you have the correct payroll tools in place that can enroll employees quickly and easily. Typically, good payroll software can assess your employee's work category automatically at each pay period and notify you when you have auto-enrollment duties to perform. Also, if you have a number of eligible job holders, you should be able to enroll multiple employees at the same time. Employers have the option to postpone AE for one or more employees for up to 3 months. Postponement can be useful for a number of reasons. It allows you to avoid enrolling employees who may have a temporary rise in earnings. It lets you align assessment dates with pay periods or tax periods. It allows for short-term workers who are employed for less than 3 months. Some employers believe that if they choose to postpone all employees for 3 months at their staging date, then nothing needs to be done in that 3-month period. This is not the case, as all employees must receive communications within 6 weeks of the staging date relating to the postponement and explaining when they will be assessed. If this communication is not issued, then the postponement effectively never happened, and enrolment must be completed retrospectively back to the staging date, which will in itself be a nightmare. So that's one to definitely watch out for. If you're doing payroll in-house, it is vital that your software can handle postponement. Whether you wish to postpone one employee or all employees, you should be able to choose a deferral date within the next 3 months and receive notifications when this deferral date comes around. A bonus is when the software can handle the additional communications required because of postponement. Once an employee has been enrolled, they have the option to opt out of the workplace pension scheme. They may decide to opt out because they have something else in place, for example, rental property. If an employee chooses to opt out within 30 days, they are entitled to a full refund of contributions made. It must be the employee's choice alone to opt out. The employer must not sway the decision in any way. You must make sure that your payroll software is able to process opt-out requests and refund the contributions to the employee. Employee communications is an important employer responsibility and is often considered the most challenging part of the process. With auto-enrolment, you need to write to each member staff individually, depending on their employee category. Eligible job holders, non-eligible job holders and entitled workers all have different rights, and so each must receive different letters outlining their entitlements, although these communications have been simplified somewhat since April of this year. Letters to eligible job holders must state that they have been automatically enrolled and have the option to opt out within the opt-out period. Non-eligible job holders need to be told that they have the option to be enrolled and that the employer must pay contributions. Entitled workers must be told that they can choose to join the pension scheme, however they are not treated the same as those who are enrolled. When postponement is used, additional communication duties come into play. It is up to the employer to notify these eligible job holders that they are using the postponement period. Furthermore, if you already have a qualifying pension scheme in place, you still need to write to staff members who are in the scheme to let them know that they are not affected. There are time limits in place to ensure that employees have sufficient time to gather information in auto-enrolment so that they can make a well-informed decision. It is your responsibility to make sure the right information gets to the right member of staff at the right time. While there are free letter templates available for you to customize for each employee, the process of managing the employee communications manually can be extremely time-consuming. Good payroll software will easily produce interactive and personalized letters to provide your employees with the relevant communications based on each employee's individual eligibility. Choose your payroll software with caution, as not all payroll software is properly handling the communications aspect of auto-enrolment. The BrightPay letters are automatically produced, customized to each individual employee, ready for printing or emailing. Employers must keep certain records on aspects of their compliance with the new duties. Employers must preserve these records and produce them to the regulator if requested. By law, there are two different types of records that an employee must keep. These are records about job holders and workers, for example, name, national insurance number, opt-in notice and joining notice, and records about the pension scheme, for example, employer pension scheme reference and scheme name and address. Most of these records must be kept for a minimum of 6 years, with the exception of those relating to opt-outs, which must be kept for 4 years. Some payroll software packages allow flexible reporting, which is a very useful feature. With BrightPay, you can customize reports, choosing the information you want to see. You can then save it as a template, save favorite reports, and open multiple reports side by side. When choosing a payroll solution, ensure that your chosen pension provider is integrated into the software. Each pension provider requires contribution files in different formats, and so choosing a payroll software that caters for your chosen pension provider will avoid complications that this may cause. BrightPay is compatible with a number of pension providers, with many more in the process of being added. Currently, BrightPay will accommodate Aviva, Legal & General, Nest, Now Pensions, The People's Pension, Royal London, Scottish Widows, Standard Life and Workers' Pension Trust. Choosing a scheme will be your responsibility, and it may be advisable to seek advice from an IFA or similar to ensure that the chosen scheme is best suited to your workforce. Nest is a scheme backed by the government with a mandate to accept all employers and employees irrespective of their size or level of earnings. It will possibly be the default choice for many small employers. The Pensions Regulator recommends that employers choose payroll software which is specifically tailored to AE. It is important to check with your payroll software provider to establish how it handles automatic enrolment, and you should test it well ahead of your staging date to make sure it works. Many software solutions will allow you to streamline the auto-enrollment process, reducing your workload. BrightPay is an easy-to-use payroll and auto-enrollment solution that can do everything you need to automate the process, allowing you to save time and money. With BrightPay, auto-enrollment is easy. It makes both payroll and auto-enrollment effortless and uncomplicated, even for small business owners like you. I would now like to hand you over to Vicky, who will give you a short talk just showing how easy auto-enrollment can be. Vicky is our BrightPay support manager, and in this example we are assuming that the employer has already registered with a pension provider, in this case Nest. Registering with Nest should take only 30 minutes on average to complete. As I said earlier, I imagine that a lot of small employers will choose Nest because it is government-backed and has a mandate to accept all employers. So thank you, Vicky.
Thanks, Paul. So good afternoon, everybody. So as Paul has just mentioned, I will now just guide you through how BrightPay handles auto-enrolment. So to get started, as soon as you are in receipt of your staging date, simply enter this in our dedicated pensions utility here under automatic enrolment and in the designated field provided. It doesn't matter either if your staging date falls in a future tax year, that is fine. So it can be a 2017 date, for example, that goes into this field. So as soon as you have it, enter it into the software. So by entering your staging date here, this will ensure that your automatic enrolment alerts will start at the correct time for you in your payroll. Entering details of your pension scheme is also straightforward and can also be done in advance of your staging date. And basically within the pensions utility, simply click on Add New Scheme and select the relevant pension option from the listing. So as Paul has just mentioned, we currently have dedicated support for 9 pension providers here, as you can see on screen. And if you're using a pension scheme that isn't covered there, then there is the option at the bottom to use other automatic enrolment scheme where you can manually enter the details for the pension provider that you're using.
I'll just interrupt you there, Vicky, as well, just to mention that one of the things we're going to add in is PAPTIS, which is a format that has been designed to be like a default preference for many of those schemes, plus other schemes that will follow later on. So hopefully that will roll out in the next few months.
Okay, so say we're using Nest as an example here. I would simply select Nest from the listing, and on the first screen enter your registration details. So in this case with Nest, your employer reference. This will be provided by Nest. You're entering details exactly as you have them set up with the pension provider. And on the following screen then, simply enter your group name, again, to match exactly how you have them set up with Nest in this example. And on the same screen here, you'll see the option to select your contribution type, for example, to use the phased minimum contribution rates or to use the 2018 minimum rate, for example. And then further down to set your earnings basis, so to use the standard qualifying earnings or to customize these to suit your needs. Further groups can be added. For example, if you have employees on different pay frequencies, you may have a weekly set of employees and monthly, or if you have employees maybe on the same pay frequency but with different contribution rates. So further groups can be added as required. When ready, once you have all your details in, simply click Save and your pension scheme will be added to the listing at the top. So just to speed things up, I have a Nest pension already set up here. Okay, so moving back to the payroll. So as soon as you reach your staging date in the payroll itself, BrightPay will then provide you with these on-screen flags and yellow alerts just to inform you that you now have automatic enrolment duties to perform. So as soon as you reach your staging date, BrightPay will automatically assess your employees for you and will determine whether they're eligible job holders, non-eligible job holders, or entitled workers. So you'll see here, if I just click on View Options here, for my first employee. So I can see my first employee here, Jemima Appleby, is an eligible job holder. So I'm given 3 options for her based on this work category. So to either enroll her, to postpone her, or to mark her as exempt. So in this instance, we will enroll Jemima here. So I simply click on Enroll, and all you do is select the scheme required from the listing, the applicable tax relief, and press Continue to complete the enrolment. So Jemima is now enrolled. So you will now be obliged to write to Jemima just to to create her enrolment letter and provide her with the enrolment letter. And to do this, simply click on the letter option. So enrolment letters can be printed, they can be exported to PDF, or they can be emailed directly from BrightPay to the employee. So if I just click on print here, so BrightPay uses the simplified April 2015 Pensions Regulator letter templates, and should you decide to print or export these, the user is given full control over paper size, the orientation and margins, etc. And if I just do a print preview, You can see the content of the letter here. BrightPay is automatically preparing for you. So this will contain information on the staging date, the employee's contribution rates, her options for opting out, should she choose to do so, and general information about automatic enrolment and what it will mean for her there. Okay. So once the employee has been provided with the letter, you simply mark as done, and that completes your automatic enrolment duties for this employee here. And you'll see if I return to the payroll, I now have no flags and alerts, so I've completed my duties. So moving on to the next employee here, this employee is being assessed as a non-eligible job holder. So I'm given slightly different options for him. So as I must write to him with information about opting in, I have the option here to produce his letter. I then have the option to opt him in, if should he choose to do so, postpone him, and to mark as exempt here. And if I look at the next employee here, Simone Pendleton, she's being assessed as an entitled worker. So slightly different options again. Again, I have an obligation to write to her, inviting her to join. Then, should she choose to join, I have that option, and to postpone and to mark as exempt again. So should you wish to postpone an employee, you simply choose the postpone option and enter the deferral date here. So this must be 3 months after the assessment date, no more than that. So I say the 1st of August here and press continue, and she is now postponed. BrightPay will then automatically produce the postponement letter to provide for the employee, and again, similar to the enrolment letter, simply click on the letter option, and once again these can be printed, exported to PDF or emailed directly to the employee. And again, once completed, mark as done. Okay. So a useful feature in BrightPay is the option to batch process multiple employees all at the same time. So for example here, if I take an eligible job holder and I go to enroll her, I am given the option here to enroll multiple employees with the same settings. So I simply select this option, I select the employees I wish to enroll, click the button at the bottom, and all those employees are now enrolled at the same time with a click of a couple of buttons. Likewise, the enrolment letters can be batch processed, again by clicking on letter, selecting the relevant option, and again marked as done, and this can be done in a batch as well. So I have enrolled and produced the enrolment letters for 4 employees all at the same time there. Similarly, the same can be done with postponement. So rather than postpone on an individual basis, if you wish to postpone multiple employees all at the same time, simply select one employee, select the postpone option, and then fill in your deferral date, and use the option to postpone assessment until the entered date for multiple employees. So the same again to batch postpone. And again, postponement letters again can be produced in a batch and marked as done here. Okay, so returning to my payroll here now, I now have no flags or alerts, so I've completed all my automatic enrolment duties at this time for all my employees. So if I just click into, excuse me, an employee who has contribution, who has been enrolled. So for any employee who is enrolled or has joined or opted in, you will then see their pension contributions flowing through onto their pay slip here. And if I just finalize this first pay period, and show you a view of a pay slip here, you'll see that the pension contributions are also included on the employee's pay slip for them too. Okay. So where we offer dedicated support for a pension provider, namely the 9 here, this means that BrightPay can also produce the contributions file and, where applicable, the enrolment file for upload into the pension provider's web portals. So taking Nest as our example here again, on the menu bar here, if I click on Nest require an enrolment file to be uploaded initially. So to produce the enrolment file, I simply click on the enrolment file option, select my employees, and just with a click of a couple of buttons, fill in the required details, click on Next, and simply save file. So save to a location of your choice. The file is now created, and you would simply log into your Nest and upload the enrolment file here.
Again, just cut across you again, Vicky,
No
just
problem.
to say that before the end of this year, Nest have already produced the specifications for what's called an API, so that the software can communicate directly with Nest, a bit like RTI. So there won't be any of that sort of saving a file and then uploading to the Nest portal. It'll be done by the click of a button within BrightPay that it'll just automatically flow through to Nest. So that's on the cards for before the end of this year. Okay.
Okay, yep. So as well as the enrolment file, then after each pay period, BrightPay will also produce the contributions file for you. And again, this is done in the same place here, by simply clicking on contributions file, just completing your payment date, the one in here, and just again working through the screens. Okay. And saving the file. And again, that's now ready for upload into Nest's web portal. So that would be something you would do after each pay period is finalized going forward. Okay. BrightPay as well is also able to process any opt-out requests that you have. So for any employees who have enrolled and they subsequently choose to opt out within the period that they're allowed to opt out in. So if you do receive an opt-out request, these are handled by BrightPay by going into the employee's utility and selecting the employee in question. And every employee has an automatic enrolment facility there within their employee record. So if I just click into an enrolled employee here, should they have chosen to opt out, I simply click the opt out button, type in the opt out reference, I'll just put in a dummy reference here, press continue, and say yes to opt her out. And if I then go into the following pay period for her, so if she's made any pension contributions already, these are now being refunded back to the employee there. Okay. So at any time, should you wish to generate any automatic enrolment reports, the analysis function will assist you in this. So within analysis, you can create your own reports here simply by clicking on New Report, choosing the criteria, so the period you wish to do your reports for, choosing your employees, and I'll just show you what you can do here. So for example, you may wish to generate an automatic enrolment report based on worker category, enrolment date, for example, or opt-out dates and cessation dates, etc. In addition, you may also like to generate a report with the contributions in. So if I just click into employer items here, I could choose the options for my Nest pension here to display the contributions on screen here. So there's my automatic enrolment report there. Okay. All reports, regardless of the criteria you choose, can then be saved. They can be saved as favorites, so it can be added to the bar at the top here. They can be printed, exported, and further edited as required. Okay. So just popping back into the pensions utility here, under the automatic enrolment section. As Paul mentioned before, you have your 5 calendar months to complete your declaration of compliance. So as soon as that's completed, you can make a record of this date here in the software. Something else you can do as well here, just at the bottom, as you've seen and as we've talked about, BrightPay automatically produces the communications for you. However, if you're with a pension provider who are taking care of the communications for you, then you won't require BrightPay to do this. So what you can do here is turn off all the reminders here and save changes. So if you have any outstanding enrolment letters, for example, rather than BrightPay continuing to notify you of this, you can stop these messages and alerts appearing. Okay. I suppose just to finish off then, we've processed here based on our staging date, but BrightPay does ongoing monitoring of your employees. And say, for example, a new employee starts, let's quickly set one up here. Okay. So as soon as I reach the pay period in which my new starter is commencing, okay, you can see here my new employee here, the flag and alert is here, notifying me again that I now have further automatic enrolment duties to perform. Okay, so that completes the short demo. I will now pass you back to Paul.
Okay, thank you, Vicky. I think it's fair to say as well that with the duties or the functions that you need to carry out in the payroll, they're very much concentrated around the staging date. And you know, you've probably seen a lot there on screen as to, you know, batch processing, producing communications, etc. Really, that only comes at you hot and heavy at the time of the staging date. Afterwards, you know, it's just monitoring and producing the actual pension files after each pay period. So, you know, if you're, say, a standard maybe 15 employee company, you might only have 1 or 2 new employees a year. So they're the only other times that you need to be concerned about communications apart from the staging. And even those occasions you might use postponement or whatever. But just to say that, you know, just to get you over that, staging is the main thing. And obviously prior to staging, setting up your pension scheme. I know of some businesses who have managed to do all that within the condensed period of 60 minutes, both actually setting up the pension scheme and handling the staging. So it is something that's actually quite achievable. But what I suppose we need to think about is at this stage is how employers will comply with these AE duties. Like, for example, are you going to process AE in-house, or will you outsource it to professional? So it's important to weigh up the advantages and disadvantages of both. If you decide to process auto-enrollment in-house, you need to ask yourself, do you have the time, staff resources, and software resources required to deal with both payroll and the AE? Or would it be more efficient to outsource to a payroll professional or accountant? By processing AE in-house, it means that you keep control of the process within the company, and you don't have to give information to an external source, and it also eliminates the costs of outsourcing to an accountant or payroll professional. Processing in-house comes with a number of disadvantages. You may need to invest in payroll software if you do not have any in place already. Purchasing software can be a cheaper option compared with outsourcing if you choose competitively priced software that can automate the employer AE duties. If you do not have the correct tools in place, it can be time-consuming to research the different software solutions available. However, at the end of the webinar, we will have a list of questions to ask a payroll software provider to make sure you are covered. Due to the number of additional tasks that come with AE, there is an increased workload that you need to consider. Finally, you may not have the experience and expertise required for managing it in-house. If you do not have the correct payroll tools in place that can automate these employer admin duties, there is a high risk of non-compliance. When we look at outsourcing auto-enrollment to an accountant or payroll professional, the advantages and disadvantages are reversed. The auto-enrollment process will be managed by a professional with experience and know-how, which reduces the risk of non-compliance. It also means that you have a reduced workload and do not need to spend the time and money investing in both software and staff resources. However, you do lose control of the process and employee information to an external source for a fee. So, whether you're speaking to your existing software provider or selecting new software, you should ask the following questions. And I say at the outset that BrightPay ticks all these boxes. The first one is to assess your workforce. Can it do that? Will it allow the use of postponement? Will it automate employee communications? Will it calculate pension contributions? Will it handle opt-ins and joinings? It would handle opt-outs and refunds. It would notify you when actions need to be taken. It would keep records and provide reports. It doesn't have any hidden charges, which we don't. It would integrate with some or all pension scheme provider systems. So I suppose just to finally say, BrightPay can automate these tasks for you, and there are no additional charges for auto-enrollment or support. For employers with up to 3 employees, BrightPay is completely free, and for more than 3 employees, BrightPay is just £89 plus VAT per annum, including support. Okay, so I'll just pass it back to yourself, Byrne.
Okay, thanks Paul and Vicky. So I suppose that was an overview of auto-enrollment, and there's a lot of information to take in. So here are some useful links and resources where you'll find some other guides to guide you through the auto-enrollment process. We will also send through a copy of the PowerPoint, so you'll have a copy of all of these links after the webinar. If anybody there, if you want to request a longer demo, if there are any other of your colleagues want to have a look at a demo, we do online demos. It takes around 10 or 15 minutes, and we can go through the whole process with you. It's also an opportunity, I suppose, to ask any specific questions that you have around payroll or auto-enrollment. And finally, don't forget to recommend BrightPay to a friend. Okay, so we'll now look at some questions that have after coming through. So just bear with us now, I'll just get them up on the screen. Okay, just a couple of seconds here, and I'll just call out some of the questions. Okay. Do I, as an employer, have to provide a pension scheme if all eligible and entitled workers decide to opt out?
Well, the answer to that is yes. You have to register with a pension scheme so that it is available for the employees to enroll with or join if they decide to do so.
Okay. So yeah, sorry guys, I'm going to go through some of these questions. If we're not sure of the answers, we will get back to you, so just bear that in mind. Where am I? If a member of staff has a flat monthly pay and then a variable overtime, is all the pay subject to pension rates?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I think even statutory payments are subject to the pension deduction.
Okay.
Yeah, what they call it, relevant earnings or whatever.
Okay. Okay, there's a very, very long one there from Sharon, so we might get back to Sharon on an individual basis, just about that one. The next one there, if an employee opts out, they receive a refund. Does the employer also receive a refund?
Yes. Again, once they do it within the opt-out period, 30 days from enrolment, the scheme itself will look after the refunds to the employer. If it goes beyond the opt-out period, I think they all have their own individual rules as to regards to refunds, but it's not automatic anyway.
Okay, thank you. Is NEST the government scheme? Yes, it is. I come in useful every now and then. Okay, have you recorded this webinar so we can show it to others? Yes, we'll email a recording of the webinar along with the PowerPoint to everybody after the webinar. Okay, if an employee opts out and BrightPay calculates a refund for them, does the employer, oh sorry, that's the same question, sorry. Do we have to pay contribution even if an employee opts out?
Well, once the employee opts out, the contributions cease from then on. So any contributions that have already been made are refunded by, say for example, NEST to the employer, and the employer refunds it through the pay slip or through the normal pay calculations of the employee.
Okay, thank you. What is the purpose of the enrollment file and contribution files that you said have to be done each time the payroll is run?
Well, it's only some of the pension scheme provider or pension providers that actually look for separate enrollment and contribution files. NEST is one of those providers, and what they the enrolment file in their case is to actually effectively register the employees with Nest, and then the contribution files will look after the individual, will look after the pay period's contributions for those employees. So typically, again, like there'd only be one enrolment file, and then after that is just contribution files, unless a new employee starts, in which case it'll be another enrolment file in that case as well. So the contribution files are basically every pay period, whereas the enrolment files are for when employees actually commence or when you're staging.
Okay. I might take this one as well. Can you just clarify the cost of using BrightPay for auto-enrollment? So within BrightPay, auto-enrollment is free. So it's a free feature where we don't charge extra for the auto-enrollment functionality. So for an employer license for the year, it's £89 plus VAT, and that's unlimited employees auto-enrollment functionality. And we also have free email and phone support that you can avail of. Okay, so the next one is, if a new employee already has opted in with a previous employer, different pension provider, can BrightPay handle this? So they're a new employee, I presume, and they were already with a previous employer, and they've decided to opt in, and it's a completely different pension provider.
Well, the employer, the new employer in that case, does not have a duty to have the same pension scheme in place. Mm-hmm. It's basically whatever pension scheme that particular employer has chosen to sign up with. That is the one that will be available for that particular new employee. I don't know whether I'm fully answering the question here, but effectively, that new employer doesn't have to sort of, say that somebody was previously with Standard Life. They don't have to suddenly go out and set up a Standard Life to have that scheme available for their employees. They can basically use whatever scheme they have set up with initially.
Okay.
Just to add to that as well, if the new employer hasn't staged, there's no obligation to facilitate the employee. The employee can arrange to continue to make contributions directly with the pension provider they were previously with.
Okay, thank you. How do we pay our employer contributions to HMRC?
I think probably the question there is, are the actual employer contributions paid to HMRC? Is that your understanding of it? Well, it's not. It's totally separate to HMRC. It's effectively the payments are made to the pension provider. Yeah. It's usually by a direct debit that's set up when you register with that pension provider.
Mm-hmm. How will BrightPay calculate eligibility for employees who are employed on variable hours each month? Some months they might not. Some months they may not even earn anything at all.
Okay. Well, I think basically what happens is each pay period it will assess the work category of the employee. So if it's somebody with variable earnings, and let's say typically those earnings are going to be less than the £10,000 per annum, wherever that works out, just under £200 per week. Typically that's going to be the case, but in a particular week, say they earn over that, you can postpone them. BrightPay will assess them as an eligible job holder, but you can postpone them. And as long as the next date, when the postponement date comes around, that employee is under the £200 per week, it'll mean that that's fine. There's no enrolment required. However, it happens that at the time of postponement and the postponement date, they're over the actual eligible earnings, they will be an eligible job holder and must be enrolled. However, after that, if they have no earnings, there's no deductions. So it's just a case of they're enrolled, but you're only calculating deductions when what their earnings are, and their earnings have to be over a particular amount anyway.
Okay. How far in advance of your staging date should communications be started?
Okay. Well, the Pension Regulator website has some useful tips on this, like for example with posters that can be hung, say, in the staff canteen, or leaflets that can be given out to staff just to inform them that what's coming down the line. So that is actually, that's quite a good idea. And I think it's recommended that 12 months to 6 months before staging that you should do that sort of thing. I think even the NEST letter, or sorry, the pension regulator letters that come out a year before an employer staging date will suggest those communications take place. The statutory communications which the software handles, that's just handled on an ongoing basis. There's no advance communication required there.
Yeah, I think as well I've come across a lot of, I suppose, information that you can give to your employees, like posters and things like that on the Pensions Regulator website, I'm almost sure. Okay, just a question about somebody having trouble finding their, I'm not sure if we can answer this, but how do I find my staging date? I've gone to the Pensions Regulator site, entered my pay reference, and it said that the pay reference has returned no staging date.
Okay, well, I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe just check that they're.
Yeah, there is. I think there is a helpline on the Pensions Regulator website there, and so you might give them a call. Under what circumstances would you postpone someone from the scheme?
Well, typically you'd use postponement if, say, somebody is only joining you for a short-term contract, say for 3 months or less. So you postpone them for the 3 months, but by the time the payroll day comes around, they're gone, so you don't have to enroll them. Or if somebody has just experienced a temporary blip in earnings which has brought them in a particular pay period into the category of eligible job holder, you might postpone them then so that when their normal returns get their back down under the eligible levels, so that you don't actually need to enroll them. Then again, they can decide to opt in or join, as the case may be.
Okay. Okay, is there any comparison on cost from different providers? I suppose officially we don't have any direct comparisons, so that's why we listed those questions there to ask your pension provider. Obviously there is some other different payroll providers out there that are doing payroll, they're doing auto-enrollment. Some of them are charging additional costs for the auto-enrollment functionality. Some of them aren't charging extra for the auto-enrollment functionality, but it's quite limited and quite basic. So that's why we have that list there, just to help you make sure that you fully understand what you're buying and how much it's going to cost you. And then some of them charge additional prices per employee per month. So as we said there, like BrightPay is £89 plus VAT, and that's unlimited employees and free support and auto-enrollment functionality. And it does everything, all of those. I think there's 10 questions there that Paul went through, and BrightPay has a big tick mark beside all of those questions there. Okay. Next one, if an employee, do the enrollment file and contributions file get sent somewhere?
Well, actually, yeah, they get sent to wherever the pension provider is through their web portal. As we say, a lot of them are working on actual APIs so that it can be submitted directly from the payroll software, much like the way RTI submits the file directly to HMRC. Okay,
thank you. If an employee wishes to opt out, should this be done before or after the staging date?
Well, it'll be after.
Yeah, you have to enroll them first of all before you can opt them out. Okay, a lot of questions coming through here, guys, so we're going to get through as many as we can. Okay, so the next one is, we run 2 payrolls, one parent company and one subsidiary. That's a word I can never say, subsidiary. The former is a monthly payroll, the latter is 4 weekly payroll cycle. Can we run one payroll scheme, or should we run 2 pension schemes because of the different payment schedules?
They run 2 payrolls.
Maybe pension schemes, maybe have the one pension scheme.
But one employer reference, is it, do you reckon?
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that one. We might actually just get back to you directly on that one, just because we're not too clear on the question. Okay, so the next one, does the opt-out period of 30 days start from the date of enrolment or the date when the person is paid?
Date of enrolment. effectively, and I think there's a couple of days after
When the
give-
enrollment letter.
get the letter itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit of a technical, the answer to that one. So I might just get back to that one in an email or whatever.
Okay. So the next one is, so a new EE, I think employee, will have to join your scheme. So an employee moves employer every year will end up with multiple schemes.
That could well be the case.
Yeah. Could happen.
Okay. Is the contributions file in a printable version?
I think you can cut and paste or copy and paste from that screen.
You
Okay,
can.
you can do
Open it. What
reports.
happens is that saves in CSV file format, so you could then subsequently go and open it from the CSV once uploaded.
So it's never a good idea to put CSVs with Excel. Excel tends to do things in CSV files. If you're going to open it with Excel, do it after you've actually sent it to the pension scheme provider.
Okay.
Or using the analysis function
Yeah, exactly.
to replicate it. Yeah.
Okay. Who do we pay collections of deductions from employees to? So that's the first question there.
Yeah. Well, it's basically the pension scheme provider.
Okay. And then, does it coincide with HMRC payment dates and rules?
It's close. It really depends on what way you set up the scheme. But I think the latest date of payment is like the 22nd of the following month, which is which is fairly close to HMRC's actual deadline as well.
Okay. So it's not the whole workforce that has to be postponed. I think that's supposed to be a question mark at the end of that.
That follows on from
right, yeah. Individual employees can be postponed even if some employees start at the stage.
Yeah, I suppose that's one thing we probably didn't make very clear. You can, at your stage, you can decide to postpone one employee or all employees or a number of employees. It's up to you. You don't have to postpone everybody at the same time.
Okay. Due to a high turnover of staff, would it be acceptable to postpone the AE date for new starters until they have completed their probation period?
Well, it's fine once it's within the 3-month limit. You can only postpone an employee for up to 3 months, so that's once it's within that.
Yeah.
Fine.
Okay. Will the recording of this webinar include the Q&A? It will. If we cannot print the contributions file, how do we know how much to pay?
Okay, well, there's various reports, as Vicky was saying earlier on, that you can print for that. I know when you actually log into the portal, say with the likes of Nest, it will tell you, what the payment amounts that are due in relation to each file that you're submitting.
Okay. Okay, so I think this is the last question that we have. Are there any penalties for late payment of deductions?
Well, yes. I don't think it's actually automated as such yet. I think the pensions regulator sort of does these things on what's the word I'm looking for? Where I suppose there's consistent abuse, or people aren't being enrolled, or there's whistleblowing or whatever, that they'll investigate cases then and they'll go after the employers in that case. So.
Yeah, I think last year there was like 169 penalties that were issued to employers, and I think the pensions regulator very much doesn't want to issue those penalties. So I think that it tries to give you as many chances as possible, but I suppose everybody wants to avoid penalties and fines.
I mean, it'd say the actual declaration of compliance is submitted within 5 months of the staging date. If employees are getting on to the pensions regulator saying, they haven't been enrolled, if like the pension scheme provider would be able to tell the pensions regulator whether payments will be made on time or not. These will all feed into whatever action the pensions regulator will take against that particular employer.
Okay.
Risk-based assessment, that's what I was thinking.
Okay. What are the penalties for not complying with auto-enrolment? Yeah, okay. Are you going to repeat this webinar at any time? We probably will, but as I said, there's a recording. We'll send a recording through to everybody. Just one last one there. Sorry, Anne, there's a bit of a delay. There's a lot of questions coming through there. Do I have to contact Nest myself to use the scheme?
Yes, you have to register with Nest online.
Okay, yeah, that's how we try to get through as many questions as possible there. But as I said, we'll send through this recording to everybody after today's webinar, along with the PowerPoint information. Don't be afraid. You can access our support line, and it's available if you just go onto brightpay.co.uk. And for all of the BrightPay customers, there's free email and phone support. So if you have any questions relating to the auto enrolment, we'll help you out there. Okay, thanks very much. Thanks, Paul.
Okay, thank you, Karen, Vicky. Thank you, everybody.
See you later. Have a good week.